1460 WVOX.
The time is exactly 8:21. It's 21 after 8 on Good Morning Westchester on 1460 WVOX on this Friday morning, August 22nd, 2008. John Harper for Bob Marone. Sunshine up to 82 today. We have a very comfortable 63 at 1460 WVOX. As we say good morning to Dan Schorr, who is running for district attorney. He's the Republican candidate for district attorney running against Janet DeFiore, and this would be the election on November 3rd, 2009. Talk about getting a head start, Dan, huh?
Good morning, John.
How are you? Now, I'm just reading some of your, I don't know if people know this. I know you've been here on WVOX several times as guests on shows and with Bob as well, but just superimposing your appearance over the Olympic Games that are going on right now. You spent some time in Beijing.
I did. I taught in a law school in Beijing, actually two, one in Beijing and one in Guangzhou, which is in southern China. I spent a year there in 2005. One of the most fascinating experiences of my life. I got to travel around the country and even all around Asia. It was just an amazing experience.
What did you learn? What did you come back with? If you were to say, okay, here are the two things, the aha moments for me in Beijing that you brought back.
I think one is a legal thing and one is non-legal. The legal part is that I taught judges and lawyers about legal reform, and I really learned a lot about their perspective on their own legal system, which, as we know, is a closed system. They don't have the freedoms we have, but a lot of the young judges I taught were really eager about reform. They knew a little bit about the freedoms we have in America, and it really opened my eyes that there was a potential that when these young judges and lawyers become leaders, that they can reform their system. The other part was just socially in China. People were so fascinated with America, whether it was the music, the clothes, the movies. It's really, there's an awakening there where there's new technology. They're into creating businesses. It's a fascinating time to be there.
This is Dan Schorr, the Republican candidate for district attorney in the 2009 election. Our guest this morning at 8:23 on 1460 WVOX, WVOX.com. Sunshine, low 80s. We're at 62 right now. It is perhaps impossible to escape your youthful looks. You are 35 years old, and let me superimpose that over the age issue that we hear about in our presidential election. How do you address that when people say, well, you're only 35, even though you do have a lot of experience here?
You know, the DA's office is really, as you said, about experience, and it's about what I've done and what I would bring to the DA's office. I've spent a long time focusing on the prosecution of domestic violence, child abuse, and homicides, and sex crimes. I've tried every type of case from beginning to end, whether they're rape cases, domestic violence assaults. I've convicted people of murder. I've worked with probably every police department in this county and all over Queens County when I was a prosecutor there. And I know a lot of the problems that are occurring right now in the DA's office and with the police, who are working very hard but are having a frustrating time working with the current DA's office. And that's the kind of experience that I want to bring to the DA's office next year.
What are some of those problems in the DA's office?
One of them right now is that people are not aggressively prosecuting cases, and that comes from the top of the office. The police departments around the county are more and more taking their cases to federal prosecutors because they feel the county prosecutors at the top are not doing an aggressive job. About 25% of the assistant DAs have resigned in the last 2 years. A lot of these people are my friends, and I worked with them, and they tell me they're frustrated. Their hands are tied by the bosses in the office. They can't investigate cases. They can't try cases. There's also not the utilization of a lot of new technology and new methods of prosecution that other counties use that the current DA's office is not using.
And what are these people, what do they cite as the reticence in the DA's office right now for aggressively going after those cases?
I think there's a problem that the top leadership of the office has no trial experience. The current DA herself was an assistant DA, but she never tried a case. She was a judge, and she never supervised the trial of a case, which I'm not aware of another criminal judge who didn't supervise a trial. And other people at the top of the office also do not have trial experience. And if you don't know how to try a case, if you've never been at a trial, it's hard to run an office of attorneys who are thinking about trial. You know, most cases don't go to trial, but a good prosecutor is thinking about how to develop a case for a strong trial, and that's how you get the best plea bargains.
And, of course, we're speaking about Janet DeFiore, the incumbent district attorney here in Westchester County. Dan Schorr is running against Janet DeFiore in the 2009 election. He is the Republican candidate for district attorney. Had a story in the news this morning, Dan, about violent crime on the rise in our kids' schools. Now, think about it, because We're talking about teenagers and younger, sex abuse, assault, robbery, weapons possessions. School districts are addressing this, trying to do something. How does the district attorney's office come into play with individual town governments and school boards to fix this problem?
Well, one thing is you need a personal connection to the schools. And one thing I volunteered to do when I was a prosecutor in Westchester, this was under Janine Pirro, was I went to the schools all around the county and I spoke to classes about different crimes, about how they can help be a partner with the DA's office, with the police to stop other people in their schools from committing crimes. We also need to provide people with counseling services for issues. We need to intervene at an early point in their lives. And the DA's office is a small part of that, but it is an important part of that.
This is Dan Schorr, our guest this morning here on Good Morning Westchester on 1460 WVOX and WVOX.com, the Republican candidate for district attorney in 2009. So as you go out in the very early stages of your campaign for next year's election, I always like to ask candidates, when you meet people, they say, you know what, Dan Schorr, I wish you would do something about...
You know, it really varies. There are some people in this county who are victims of domestic violence, which I prosecuted for most of my career.
And that never gets reported. That's the can I call that the silent crime? Would I be accurate in doing that? You hear about some of the more foreground cases, but there's a lot of stuff that's going on that probably doesn't get reported.
Absolutely. I've been all over this county. I've been to a lot of public fairs. People have come to me and told me that they're in abusive situations, that they don't know how to get out of them. And I dealt with hundreds of victims of domestic violence. It's extremely tough for them. People have a lot of pressure from their families, from their abusers. They have financial pressures. It's tough to escape these relationships. And people are looking for help. They were looking for help when I was an assistant DA, and I hear that now. People who are not in those situations have other problems, whether their home was burglarized, whether their car was stolen, whether there are drug dealers nearby. We've had, as you mentioned, a rise in violent crime in schools. People are afraid about their kids being safe. And these are some of the concerns that need to be addressed. I also hear from police officers all the time that they don't have a partner in the DA's office. And that is an extremely important problem right now that I'm going to fix.
Dan Schorr running against Jenna DiFiore. He's the Republican candidate for district attorney in 2009. His website, Elect Dan Schorr. That's SCHORR, electdanschorr.com. Dan, thank you. We'll see you next Friday morning on Good Morning Westchester.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for the time.